joining us today. I'm Nikolai at BigY Fly Company. Today we are joined by Ben Paul from OPST. So thanks for coming down and joining us today.
For sure, pleasure.
So we just kind of wanted to host you and talk all things OPST today. So maybe firstly, who is OPST? Give us just a little bit of the history.
Yeah, OPST is a company that was founded primarily by Ed Ward and Jerry French back in around 2011, 2012, and was pretty quiet for the first couple years, mostly just sort of a guiding outfit, and there were also a couple of investors brought on, business partners, James Owase, who's still with OPST, and Yasi Nakano, and the four of them collaborated with the main goal of taking Skagit tactics and sort of broadening the universe of Skagit, taking it from what was traditionally a steelhead-based system and style of casting and taking it all the way down to, we make Skagit heads now for everything rods as light as a 3-weight, and maybe even, below that, like a 2-weight switcher spay rod. Mm-hmm. So really just embracing all things Skagit, whether that be tying for intruders, and we make fly tying materials, but it's primarily just taking Skagit and expanding it, and we have people doing it in coastal and tropical saltwater. We have people using Skagit tactics on the East Coast for striped bass, and lots of guys are starting to use it for the ultralight single hand rods.
Okay, great. I've heard a little bit about one of your partners, Ed Ward. What can you tell us about him?
Ed Ward is sort of a bit of a mythical figure. He doesn't like talking about himself, and he doesn't like the limelight, so it's always sort of a delicate matter talking about Ed Ward, but he's had a really outsized influence in the fly fishing industry. He's a bit of a, many people consider him a bit of a legend, but extremely humble guy. My favorite thing about Ed Ward is that he's fished in Kamchatka, he's guided in Kamchatka, he's guided for years and years in Alaska, he's caught good Chilean steelhead. But I fish with him most summers for smallmouth bass and pike in the upper Midwest and Wisconsin. I'll tell you what, there's no one in the world that gets more excited about a freaking smallmouth that big than Ed Ward. So he's just he's a pure fisherman through and through, and he really had a big hand in developing Skagit tactics. The exact history of who did what and who was there is, I've heard the story so many times that I can't repeat it, but there were several people at the outset of Skagit. Ed Ward was one, and originally they started chopping up 12-weight forward fly lines and heavy fly lines, and condensing them to make the first rudimentary Skagit lines, and Ed was in on that, and our company is an outgrowth of that, and the Commando Head is sort of the ultimate evolution of the lines that they started making back in, I think certainly in the early 90s, but maybe even as early as the late 80s.
Okay, all right. So you guys are most known, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are most known for your Commando Head system.
Yeah.
So give us a quick rundown on the whole system and how it works.
So the original Commando Head system, like most Skagit or traditional spay type lines, consists of a running line, which starts from the backing and goes all the way to a head. The Commando Head in this case is the shooting head. That's the part of the line that actually does the casting. The Lazar Line or the running line is just along for the ride. It's a very good running line, mono running line. The Commando Head is what does the casting, and this is a short, condensed Skagit head. I believe to this point it's still the shortest mainstream Skagit head, to my knowledge, that's on the market. They range from 12 to 18 feet, 18 feet being 475 grains. The 12-footers are 150 increments of 25 between that. And then on the end of that Skagit head, you need some sort of sink tip, or some sort of tip, or else the Commando Head has so much energy that it's just going to whip. So you need some tip to dissipate the energy. The tip also serves, of course, to be either sink down or float on top. And then most of the time, on the end of that sink tip, we just use straight tippet. So if I'm fishing winter steelhead personally, I fish at least 16-pound fluorocarbon. A lot of people just fish 15-pound maxima. That works great. more and more I'm fishing 18-pound fluorocarbon. That's what I was using in BC, because why not? The fish don't care. And when you're landing that fish, you know, it's really nice to grab that leader and then to finish it right then and there instead of having to worry about that. But that's another topic. So that's the system. It's the Lazar Line, the running line, the Commando Head, and the sink tip. Our sink tips come in 3 different sink rates. We just decided to make it easy for the customer. We decided to call them riffle, run, and bucket for shallow, medium, and deep sink rates. The riffle is the type 2-3, the run is 5-6, and the bucket is 8-9. So just to make it
awesome.
Try to make it easy.
Cool. So we noticed here at BigY that your recommended weights for these seem to line up a little bit lighter than kind of the rest of the industry. Is there kind of a simple answer there, or what can you say about that?
Yeah, there's not a real simple answer. It's we have a page on our site that's devoted to this question. It really has to do with the fact that the lines are short. Being short, they pack equivalent grain weight in, you know, a shorter length of line, so you get more grain density per foot, per inch, per rod motion. So that's one, and related to that, you know, a consequence of that is the line is fatter, so you get a fatter line produces more water tension on the water, and you get more water load because of that. And another factor is the density of the line is it floats a little bit. It's not the highest floating line in the industry. It floats a little bit farther down, so you get more water load there as well. The other thing is a lot of people consider the sink tip as sort of something that's just along for the ride. It's something that the head has to carry.
Right.
And our style of casting, we keep everything inside the box, and it's a pure water load. And the sink tip is part of the cast. So the sink tip is actively loading the rod as you come around. And so the sink tip needs to be taken into the equation in the cast as well, which may or may not be taken into account in the way people think about other lines.
Okay. On some more of the terminology, the term pure Skagit shows up a few times, like right here in the Lazar Line. Does the term pure, is that a real technical term, or I mean, what does pure Skagit mean exactly, if anything?
Yeah, we just kind of made it up, and you know, basically it's a reflection of this being Ed Ward's ideal Skagit line. This is, you know, we figured from someone who was there at the outset of Skagit, who's really had an outsized influence on the world of Skagit. You know, let's see, 20 years later, this is a Skagit head that Ed wanted to design, and so it's partly that. It's partly that as a company, you know, we don't make weight forward floating lines. I do this a lot in my own fishing, but as a company, we're not, you know, in the overhead style. We're not in Scandi casting. We're in Skagit, so we're focused entirely on the world of Skagit and Skagit fly tying techniques, intruders, and stuff like that. You won't see us doing how-to videos on how to tie a, you know, Adams Irresistible.
Right.
It's just not really our wheelhouse.
Right.
So that was kind of the thinking behind that.
Okay.
Not to be arrogant, I'm sure some people take it that way, but that wasn't really our intention.
Yeah, no, to each their own, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of out of curiosity, did you guys design these setups kind of with your home waters, you know, taking into account your home waters? Do they work best on, you know, Pacific Northwest winter steelhead rivers, or are they kind of, you know, are they versatile, you know, geographically and seasonally? I guess would be my question.
Certainly they're really versatile. Our bread and butter, the core, what's in our hearts is always going to be steelhead, and it's always going to be the Skagit and Lincoln Peninsula primarily. That's why the company's OPST. Originally, the origin of that name, you know, Ed and Jerry were Skagit guys primarily. They fished around, they went up to BC and did stuff, but their place was on the Skagit, and with Skagit closures, they were sort of forced to go to the OP. To my understanding, they didn't really fish the OP a whole lot because they were always on the Skagit, but it's sort of this marriage between the Skagit and the OP. But, you know, we have guys in Eastern Europe and England. We get guys who say, oh, I fished confined rivers in England, and check out this Atlantic salmon. The guy's holding Atlantic salmon that's freaking big, and again, we have guys fishing these for redfish. Sea run cutthroat is a target that we really enjoy fishing for, and so it really is all over the world. Mouse fishing in Alaska, and Kamchatka or wherever. And one of the ways we've added to that versatility is with the sink tips and with floating tips. We have floating tips for both of our lightweight trout setups, and we have floating tips for a steelhead weight floating tip for skating flies, whether that's on the Deschutes or the North Umpqua or what have you. And we have those tips in a variety of different lengths. So for single hand rods all the way up to like 14-foot rods, we have floating tips for steelhead from 7.5 to 14 feet. So it's a lot of versatility, and the magic for people is when they pick up that line for the first time and it just shoots out there and the line goes boing and they say, oh wow, that was easy, and I didn't have to do this. It's not a spay cast, it's a Skagit cast. It's just to keep it inside the box. It's a water loaded cast, and the line sort of casts itself. And so we think it's highly versatile. It's not going to do everything. If you're going to the Bahamas to go bone fishing, this is not the line I recommend. There are better lines. However, the Commando Smooth, you definitely would be in the game with the Commando Smooth because it's a fully integrated head. But why not? Because it's a head. You throw it out there and you make an 80-foot cast, and then you can't cast it unless you strip all the way back to the head. So it's not really a bonefish line, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be. It's a fantastic line for what it is, and it can, has huge applications in freshwater and some applications for sure in saltwater. So yeah, that's a long answer.
So no, that's fine. That's great. So the smooth integrated, can you expand on that a little bit? What does that term, smooth integrated, really specifically mean?
So it's a fully integrated head and running line. With our original Lazar Line, it's a great running line, but you have to tie a knot. Like we tie like a double or triple surgeon's loop, loop to loop, which is the Commando Head. So there's that junction.
Right.
Not a big deal if you're swinging for steelhead. Not at all, because you're not ever trying to strip in all the way to the fly.
Right.
But if you're fishing for pike or a lot of times trout or whatever, you want to be able to strip in or sea run cutthroat off the beach. You want to be stripping in pretty far, and that knot is just annoying. And sometimes it gets caught, depending on the rod you have. It can get caught. I've had certain rods, certain guides that it can get caught. And if you're fighting a fish, sometimes it can get caught. Not most rods, but some rods. So the Commando Smooth completely fixes that problem. There's a smooth, gradual transition between a coated mono running line and the Commando Head. So it's just really nice to fish, really smooth. I mean, it's just like stripping in any other fly line.
Sure.
And we just called it Smooth just because that was an easy brand name that sounded good.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Let's see. A lot of folks, well, me personally, when I hear the word Skagit, I think of big, heavy flies, big two-handed spay rods. But let's talk a little bit about how these are not limited to two-handed rods.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Like they can work great for a little trout spay setup.
Yeah.
Or maybe an angler wants to dabble into spay casting but doesn't want to, finance the brand new rod. So just touch on how it can work for a single-handed rod as well.
Yeah. I fish these rods on everything from a 7.5-foot 3-weight up to single hand up to a 9-foot 10-weight for kings, and I've had great success on everything in between a 9-foot 8-weight. So they're more than suitable for single hand rods, and that's actually honestly some of my favorite fishing is fishing a light 3 or 4 weight with the Commando Head, especially the Commando Smooth, swinging soft tackles for trout.
Yeah.
Places where guys couldn't get in there with a floating, think like the Deschutes. I don't fish the Deschutes very much, but that's where I really want to, and I know guys who do and have swung it and say throw it out there with the streamer and good things will happen. And that just, I really want to do that. But I mean, I fish the Yakima, and I fish a lot of sea run cutthroat is what I do in saltwater and in freshwater with my little 3-weight. And you know, I'm catching trout, some of which are like that big on my little 3-weight, and the 3-weight's bent over, and my little click pull reel is screaming. It's like, how could you not, you know, enjoy that? You're a fisherman. And, but, you know, I've also had really good success in Puget Sound fishing salmon off the beach, because with a head like this, if you're overheading it, there's no false casting involved really. You literally just pick it up, put it back once, shoot it, and then it'll, you know, 70, 80 feet of line is gone instantly and you're fishing. And meanwhile, there's guys right next to me on the beach that are doing this like 30 times to make a cast. And add it up over the course of a whole day, and your flies in the water are a lot longer if you're making that one false cast and getting it in there. So there's huge application on single-hand rods. It's really I've sort of become kind of known for single-hand stuff in our company just because I'm the guy who does it most, and I really enjoy doing it. And I encourage people to try. If you have a 3-weight, throw a 150 grain Commando Head on your 3-weight and tell me how you do.
Awesome. Okay. Well, great. I know that, you know, that certainly helped clear up a few things on the Commando system for myself personally. With the Commando Heads aside, what else do you guys sell? I mean, I know this is kind of your main, you know, your main bread and butter, but what else? I know you guys dabble in feathers a little bit and some other things, but if you don't mind, just touch on some other stuff you sell.
Yeah, we sell a few different accessories and fly tying materials. Our very first product was our barred ostrich feathers and our dotted ostrich feathers, which is a really nice value. 2 feathers per pack for $12.95. It's a high quality feather. It come in 13 or 14 different. So those are the dotted there, and there's one purple barred. So that was our first product ever, and back then I was working out of a little tiny, well, I guess it wasn't that tiny, but just a little empty office in downtown Seattle, and trying to peddle feathers to local fly shops. It was kind of an uphill battle, but eventually we came out with the Lazar Line, and sales started to pick up somewhat. We sell those. We sell a really nice dubbing spinner for twisting composite loops. It's nice and heavy, so you just spin it once and it just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning, and it can spin up really dense composite loops. We sell really high quality flies tied by Jonathan Farmer up in Alaska, an intruder, in my opinion, the best intruders you can buy. A graboid leech, some micro intruders, a couple other patterns. We sell sink tip wallets and head wallets, really nice accordion style wallets that are, you know, mesh so your stuff dries out. We sell some apparel. We sell you know, a full line of tips, sink tips and floating tips. Fluorocarbon hooks. We have a fantastic hook, the swing hook, which is what, you know, quite a few, I won't say quite a few, I'll say several, at least several guides and lodges in BC fish our hook exclusively. It's a barbless hook, comes barbless, you don't need to plow down or crimp down the barb. It's a strong, extremely sharp hook, specifically designed for swing fishing. Yeah, those are
awesome.
Those are a few of our,
just
a few. We have quite a few.
Yeah, not just the heads. It seems like they take a lot of the attention, but there's some other things that kind of fill in.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good. Well, thanks again for coming on down and joining us today. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in with us today. It was great to talk to Ben and learn a little bit more about OPST. Feel free to give us a shout anytime here at BigY Fly Company if you have any more questions. We're here for you. Thanks a lot.